Sup guys, I'm Jeron Jordan, and this is N.W.A. Niggas Want an Apology. It's been a while since I've done one of my minute horror, or even an N.W.A. or any of this stuff. Mostly because I've just been just kicking it, you know? Summer's coming to an end, wanted to enjoy some time with my family, my girlfriend. I've been keeping busy through watching a bunch of movies and not making videos on them. I've seen Old in the past few weeks, the Fear Street trilogy, going to do... Kissing Booth was another one. But for now, I wanted to give this a try and do a review for a movie I literally saw this past weekend, and that's Candyman. For this review, I'm gonna get into some spoilers. It's been like a weekend and internet time. That means I'm already late to posting this review. So if you haven't seen it already, give it a try. Honestly, I think it's worth your time. It's not a perfect movie. It has its faults, but I think ultimately it's very strong and well directed. So shout out to Nia. Hopefully you guys get a chance to check it out. So this is your warning and spoilers. Candyman stars Yahya Abdul-Mateen II as Anthony McCoy. I know him more commonly as Black Dr. Manhattan from the HBO Watchmen series, but he's an artist who's living in Chicago, who's going through a bit of a creative drought, and in his search for inspiration, he stumbles upon the story of the Candyman, an urban Chicago legend that is based in the Cabrini housing projects. So he finds out about the story of Candyman through laundromat owner William Burke, who's portrayed by Coleman Domingo. And through this newfound knowledge, he gets inspired and interested in the lore and creates some real hipster art installation thing. It's literally just a big mirror with a poem, and the only reason it's even in there is because he's railing the owner of the exhibit. But if you have seen HBO's Watchmen, I'm sure you understand the type of damage he was doing and why it was so easy to secure his position there. Anywho, he ends up naming this piece Say My Name after Candyman, where you say his name 5 times, blah blah blah. But it's clearly inspired by the real-life movement of Say Her Name that came out of the racial protests in the wake of the continued police brutality. And there are a lot of themes of that in this current movie, so it's very of its time, just like the original movie. They also talk a lot about gentrification, and I know for a lot of you guys, this might be another woke film, but they're really tasteful in the way that they portray these themes and go about telling the story. I'm a big fan of how everything progresses, especially the way that Candyman as a reality is brought into the world. After the art show, it's essentially a flop. No one really cares about his little mirror trick thing, but one of the curators ends up trying to get some quick money. He says Candyman in front of the mirror, him and his girl, as they're about to like do the nasty. And Candyman ain't about that, shows up, does a little bit of stabby, and well, now Anthony McCoy is incredibly well known because his little nightmare piece actually spawned a real nightmare. Anthony himself starts to realize that shit's going down, and it's kind of scary. We're left at a point where Anthony McCoy is troubled. He's going through a lot. He's finding out a lot about his past, himself, Candyman. He's having very odd interactions with people. People he's interacting with are either showing up dead or being hurt by his actions. And then it just kind of cuts away. Where I have a lot of fault with the film is in its finale. It feels as if the film is missing a scene before the finale. His girlfriend/wife character, Brianna, portrayed by Tiana Paris, sorry I had to look at the screen, she ends up looking for McCoy, who's now missing, finding him after being kidnapped by the laundromat owner, William Burke. So the movie then takes a really sharp turn where Mr. Burke is the ultimate villain of the film, and it becomes less of a story about Anthony McCoy's deterioration of his mental state, his inflated ego, and it ends up becoming a story about how William Burke, the laundromat owner, wants to preserve the legacy of the Cabrini projects and the legacy of his people and Candyman and such by turning Anthony McCoy entirely into the Candyman by cutting off his arm, and it's a real brutal scene, and I honestly was in the theater just straight up like Surprisingly, for a guy who watches a lot of horror movies, I don't do well with a lot of gore. I found it to be evil mustache twirly evil. Like, you know, where it's like, I've got you now! Like a lot of that. And it's silly to me. And I was like, what is this? Because the movie, up until that point, was a very personal story of Anthony McCoy and how he's dealing with this trauma, how he's now learning how to express himself as an artist while losing his own self-identity as he's slowly morphing into this zombie-like Candyman guy. By taking away the focus of the story from Anthony McCoy to now William Burke being this evil guy who wants to, you know, take down the man by turning Anthony McCoy into the Candyman, it just doesn't work. Because we never establish William Burke as a character that is that important. Of course, he shows up and he tells the story of Candyman, and we're flashing back to his youth and such, but we're never establishing him in a way that would suggest or justify him becoming this evil mustache-twirling villain. The way that they attempt to justify it is by showcasing to us that, as a child, William Burke had an interaction with one of many Candymen, which is actually one of the more interesting takes on the lore and the mythology here, where Candyman isn't just one guy, but instead an identity formed by people who have died unjustly, often by the hands of racists or lynch mobs and such. Police brutality is the one that takes the life of this specific version of Candyman that William Burke has this interaction with. By William Burke snitching on, I'm gonna call him, let's call him Candyman 2. So by snitching on Candyman 2, Candyman 2 is killed and he becomes the Candyman. I know it's getting kind of confusing. Now, William feels guilty for this and in turn wants to rectify the situation by assuring that Candyman lives on forever as a new Candyman to prevent gentrification and preserve the legacy of the projects and the people there. Sorry, I can't explain it any clearer than that. If you've seen the film, you more or less get what I'm getting at. But if you've seen the film, you also, I don't know, maybe you don't agree, but you also can see that it feels a little rushed. It feels as if we didn't really get to that point thoroughly, especially because the film is only an hour and a half, which is quite strange. I feel as if they had given the movie some time to breathe and develop William Burke's character, let us get a more understanding of his ideology and why he feels indebted to Candyman in such a extreme way where he's kidnapping someone and cutting off a dude's hand, then we would have a more satisfying conclusion. Instead, what we have is a moment where, like in some other Jordan Peele movies, and I understand, once again, Jordan Peele did not direct this film, but he had his hands involved in the writing and as a producer. We have a character who was compromised in some way. So think of, I think it's Chris at the end of Get Out, where he's tied to that chair and he's looking at the TV screen and it's Coagula or whatever. Or in Us, where Lupita Nyong'o's character is now talking to her tethered version in the classroom, and it's just, you know, this long exposition dump. And now in this one, again, a character is tied up into a chair and is standing there for a long exposition dump. I feel as if the problem that we're getting whenever we're getting these sort of exposition dump guide and chair moments is we're listening to a lot of justification and explanation of past events, but at the same time, this new twist, this sudden info dump, is adding new layers to the story that complicates the story, because it always comes at the very end of the movie. So in this specific instance, when we're listening to William talk about how he feels about Candyman and how the people need to forever remember and respect Candyman and they'll learn their lesson or whatever, it feels like we got that instead of an ending that focused on Anthony McCoy's own arc. If we had gotten some more time with William Burke's character and understood his motivations a little bit more, or if we had seen the ending play out without Burke's character and instead focus exclusively on Anthony and how he is tearing apart the relationships in his life and slowly becoming this Candyman. That would have been a better ending. At the same time, give some praise to Nia DaCosta, because what she was attempting to do was juggle a lot of very complicated themes that require a lot of nuance, while also giving us a very satisfying, scary, and fun horror movie. And in the latter, she really succeeded. Some scares, personally, I wasn't too affected by the horror of it, but I did find it to be very artistic. The presentation of the film was nice, beautiful cinematography. They do this like upside down panning of some buildings with a lot of fog, and I think that's really cool imagery. They also have some storytelling beats of Candyman, which I thought was incredible. Really reminiscent of the story of the Deathly Hallows from Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, with some puppetry work. They could have easily have just taken film from the 1992 version and done a quick flashback of what happened in the movie there, but they got really creative with it, and you could actually go into this movie without having seen the original and still get a really solid experience out of it. But ultimately, really liked this new Candyman. I thought it was fun, well presented, a bit thrilling, not too scary. It was a movie that showed that Nia DaCosta is a strong filmmaker who has some stories to tell, and I'm looking forward to whatever she ends up making in the future. Obviously, anything Jordan Peele makes is going to be an immediate watch for me, as a huge fan of Get Out and the work that he's doing with Monkey Paw. So with Candyman 2021, I have to say, for scary, I will give it a 3.5.
Okay.
Some gore. Didn't really give me any nightmares or anything, but I think it was effective in its scares. For entertainment, I was rather entertained until the end. 4 out of 5. And for cinematic, beautiful film. Very cinematic. The music is good. The acting is good. The special effects are great. There's a lot of moments where you're just looking in the background, looking for reflections. 4.5. Ultimately, it's a pretty high scoring film, so definitely a recommendation for me. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. If you have seen it, please tell me your thoughts. Maybe we can have a bit of a discussion. I'm active in the comments, so have some fun down there. But now that we're at the very end, let's do a little bit of Q&A. So I posted on my Instagram story for you guys to send me any question, and I'll answer it on the next video. And I'm gonna continue this. Okay, how do they smash in movies and TV?
That brother's starving.
If you're talking about sexual intercourse, find Jesus. Kidding. How they smash movies and TV. So there are a couple of ways. There's usually someone who comes on set, or you can have a really well-trained director who might be able to have the maturity and the expertise to do this. But just like you would have stunts in a movie and have a stunt coordinator, you might have a sex coordinator. It's kind of like choreography. They speak with the actors. They put their genitals for men in a cock sock. For women, there's pasties involved often, and it's a lot of camera tricks that allow them to hold each other in a way that looks like they're having sex, but they're not really. But what you doing where you need the answer to that question, bro? So my favorite movie theater snack, so as you can see, I'm a little bit of a big boy.
A big nigga's gotta eat.
And as a big boy, I can't just have one snack. It's guaranteed have to have a popcorn, have to have a Coke. I'm a Candyman, no pun intended. Twizzlers and peanut M&Ms. You know, they're a classic. If you get red vines, you belong in hell. I can only watch one movie forever. So this is a little bit of a difficult question, because I know no matter what movie I choose, I will inevitably begin to hate it. Probably The Dark Knight. So The Dark Knight is my favorite movie of all time. Sorry, I don't have COVID, I promise. I would pick The Dark Knight because it's my favorite movie of all time. So my favorite Star Wars character, no, definitely not Jar Jar. My favorite Star Wars character is Mace Windu. Why? He's black. Right? Ooh. So I can't tell you whether or not the stories are true for these cursed film sets. For those who might not be in the know, during the filming of The Exorcist, there's all sorts of crazy shit that is said to have happened. Windows breaking and, you know, stuff falling and moving and all the other horror movie stuff that you see in the first 20 minutes of any Paranormal Activity movie. I can't say if it's true or not. I just don't with that shit. So as a person who doesn't with that shit, I'm not looking for answers. I'm not testing it out. I'm not saying Candyman in the mirror 5 times. I don't know. What makes something an anime? Wow. Okay. So there's a definitive answer to this question, and there is a Jeron answer to this question. So the definitive answer to this question, it is animated in Japan. But I like to think of anime as a style, as an art form, right? So I best define it this way. What makes something pornographic? So every time there's nudity, it isn't porn. Every time two people have sex on screen or in a movie, it isn't porn. But when you see porn, you know it's porn. It's kind of like that. Do I love you? Well, sadly, I only love my bed and my mom. I'm sorry. Okay, so in a fight between Superman and Super Mario, who would win? What's at stake, dude? Did Superman kidnap the princess? Because if so, Mario's gonna get your ass, dude. He's not gonna beat Super Mario. What? Have you seen Mario? He's built different, bro. He's the most out of shape, athletic dude I've ever seen in my life. That alone puts him above Superman. Come on. All right, guys. Well, that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed the little Q&A at the end. I'm going to be asking more questions or answering more questions in future videos, as well as getting stuff out to you guys in general. Sorry for the long hiatus. For the people who even noticed that I wasn't uploading, holy shit, I can't believe it. For everyone else who just didn't notice and for some reason decided to watch this one again, thanks. I appreciate it. So make sure you subscribe, like this video. It helps the algorithm. I do this all for the algorithm. I'm a slave to the algorithm. So yeah, shout out Al G, Don Cheadle. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Deuces.